Hey, can y'all hear me? Give me a 1 if you can hear me via this webcam thing. I'm all in dishevels. If you can hear me, give me a 1, please. Hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, Sandy. Can you hear me? Because I'm using this webcam as a mic. Thank you. Because my daughter's headphones broke, so I had to order a new pair. But she filled me in that this works apparently to talk into. But I also have, like my work headphones, the kind that they gave me, and then the kind, my earbuds, I just left them at work. So we're going to try it this way. Happy Sunday. Is it Sunday? Yeah. I hope everybody is ready to tackle the new week. I'm actually hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, Kate. Kind of sad that it's all over. The kids are going back to school and, but a few weeks it'll be Christmas again. Did anyone go Black Friday shopping? Just curious. I wonder if Kate's still here. I was going to do an open panel. The problem is I don't know how. Okay, Beatlemaniac, don't worry. We don't have a ton, so I feel like we'll be fine. Go eat dinner. Yeah, either did I, Sandy. I went one time, and when I was pregnant with my third, I let somebody drag me out to Black Friday, and I said I would never, ever do that again because exactly, SA, I did a whole bunch of online shopping, and that was good enough for me. But I've been kind of like just MIA. I just kind of enjoyed the last few days just watching a few lives at night, but just spending some family time. But I wanted to come on tonight because I do think there are some things. We have an update for the Idaho case. So I tried to figure out, because, why is this such a big deal? Why is everybody covering it? And I honestly believe that it's just because this is kind of what this is true crime, right? We don't have a suspect. This is an active case, a very tragic case. And I think that's what is drawing everybody for the most part. Oh, thanks, Malibu Barbie. It's church Sunday, so I have to do a little bit something with myself. So one thing, so we do have an update, but there's one thing I got to tell y'all. I'm really laughing. I texted Punket and Amber about it, and then I also messaged Melissa Jade because I thought this was hilarious. So I was on Twitter. Thank you, Beatlemaniac. I was on Twitter, and I saw that somebody had said, guys, look at this. And it was that they said that there was this guy, I'm not going to say his name because I'm as bad as they are, but it's on Twitter. This guy Venmo'd Ethan, and here's the kicker. This is so stupid, it's funny. Here's the kicker. His Pinterest has a awesome knives section. And I kid you not, people were saying, call it into the FBI. Did you call it in? And this person is like, oh, I called it into the FBI. I called it into the FBI. Okay. So I was talking to Melissa Jade about this, and I do think that at some point there has to be a line that we don't cross that is almost invading people. And so this kid was now doxxed to all of Twitter as well as his Pinterest based on the fact that he got Venmo from Ethan, but also that this kid had a I love knives or awesome knife section. My kid loves knives. He doesn't have them. If I would let him, I would. But there's a lot of people that collect knives. Knives are kind of like a lot of people collect knives. When I looked at this kid, I wanted to know, okay, who's this kid? So I looked up a little bit about this kid on Facebook, excuse me, and he is good friends, you can tell. Just a little bit I saw with Ethan and his family. And I looked at one of the fraternities, group pictures, and he's part of it. So he's part of the fraternity. People Venmo money to each other all the time. Like kids these days, that's how they reimburse each other for things. You grab lunch for something, hey, I'll pay you back. You Venmo the money over. Like but they just doxed this kid. And you know what? If he has something to do with it, so my point is, call it into the FBI. Absolutely do that. That's great. See something, say something, because you just never know. But you have, and I was talking to Melissa Jade about this because I do respect her a lot because she is very cautious about throwing out, those to throw out a kid that could potentially be completely innocent because he collects knives and he got money from Ethan is super dangerous. And so she was just agreeing to say, yeah, it would, there's a fine. You've got to be very careful about throwing those type of accusations out based on something like that. So it really bothered me for this kid because he's now the entire Twitter knows who he is. So to each their own, I'm not perfect. I'm sure I've, done that. I think we just have to be so careful, especially when it comes to these kids. And I still think they're kids because they're 2021. Anyways, yeah, exactly, Malibu Barbie. Knives are actually a very common thing to collect because there are so many different styles and, designs and decorations, and it's a very common thing to collect. In fact, Punkette was saying that she collects them. So, anyways, so I'm not sure if I'm going to play the Fox News update, the interview with Aaron Snell. I'm not sure who saw that, but I thought it was very good. And I wanted to watch it because there is a few things I wanted to talk about that I saw. How do I do that? She's got me all set up with two screens. I have no idea how to do two screens. All right. Oh, wow. Look at this. This is super interesting. And I have some pictures to go through. So one thing that, hey, Danielle, one thing that we can go over after this. Oh, by the way, thank you for the times continually changed. My son came in at 7:45, my youngest, and said, I have a project due. I forgot about it and I didn't start it, or I didn't do it. And I said, when is the project due? And he said, tomorrow. So we did that. I did half of it with him and his dad's helping him with the other half. So one thing that I'll tell you beforehand that stood out to me with this is that they said they didn't have a suspect. To me, that is, I'm hoping it's a lie, but it's also very alarming because at this point now we're 2 weeks into it and we have no suspect. And that's concerning because who's big? Hey, the Andra, who's Beatlemaniac? I do not know who Big Smo is. I will have to look that up. But that's awesome. Whoever it is, I'm glad she's been found. Every day that we don't have a suspect in this case is scary. It's not good. All right.
Been so many unanswered questions in this case and a lot of speculation about what investigators have and haven't done. So we
Can you hear this?
Question straight to the
or do I have to share something?
With Aaron Snell of the Idaho State Police earlier today. Watch.
Sir, thanks so much for doing this interview with us. You're with the state police. We know the FBI is on the scene, and then you have the local police. Who is running this investigation?
Yeah, so the Moscow Police Department is running this investigation. When these homicides happened, pretty much it was all hands on deck. As a team, we're all working together for the same goal.
Good copy. Let's talk about some of the investigation. I don't want to compromise the investigation, but some of the critique or stuff circulating is the crime scene. Are you confident, and you have law enforcement experience as well, that the integrity of the crime scene was not compromised in this investigation?
I am confident that there wasn't a compromise in the integrity of the investigation. We know that the Moscow Police Department arrived on scene. They essentially saw what had occurred. They locked it down, and then additional resources came in. We have a lot of the best technology, the latest and greatest as far as training goes. So indeed, I believe in the integrity of this investigation.
You believe, just to follow up quickly on that normal protocols were followed, witnesses separated, crime scene locked down, that you start off large and then work in smaller. When you guys decided to extend the tape a little bit, was that because there was more information brought to the table? What was your reasoning for doing that?
Yeah, so the other day we extended the crime scene. Really what we did is we just enlarged the working area for the detectives and the investigators that are actually on scene. As we have more and more information, we're able to try and piece together what occurred. When we do that, we want to go out to the scene and see how that fits in. And so it wasn't really an evidence collection situation. It was purely a workspace situation. We wanted to make sure that we held the integrity of the investigation, which is important. And so we're not enlarging and retracting the crime scene per se.
Want to follow up on that crime scene. What type of information, because the public, when you request information from you're squaring that with some of the information that you guys have been able to collect from the scene. So you got DNA, and has all that DNA been processed through the FBI lab? Have y'all been able to grab all the technology and all that information from the servers, the Wi-Fi, all that stuff? Has that already been processed?
We are continuing to ask for the public's help, especially for video surveillance. We believe that in many cases, what's not on a video is actually just as important as what is on a video. As far as all the evidence that's been collected, most of that actually went to the Idaho State Police Crime Lab. And our scientists are working. It's a high priority for this case, and they've been working 24/7 to really turn around the evidence and provide that analytics basically back to us.
So we're still going to be getting some more information from that information that they've collected. That hasn't already all been, it's a big crime scene in there. They haven't processed all that information just yet.
That's correct.
All the subjects that were there, that means the people that came from the fraternity house, the witnesses there on the scene that were asleep during this allegedly, have they all been cleared from this investigation?
What I can tell you is that the roommates that were there and the people that
Hey,
called
Amber.
911, so that would be all the people that were in the house, detectives at this point in time do not believe that any of them were involved. All of them have been cooperative, and all of them have helped with the investigation.
So there's been a lot of talk about a dog being at the scene that may have been one of the victim's dog. My question is, was the dog present in one of the rooms? Or was the dog just roaming somewhere in the house? Do we know that just yet?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, we do not know that. What we do know is indeed there was a dog at the residence. Once the officers came, the dog was taken to Animal Services, where then a responsible person came and picked up the dog.
Was the dog present for the crime?
So I don't have the information, and we're not sure.
And where's the dog now? Is the dog with the victim's ex-boyfriend? Can you release that information?
So that's really not our information to release. We do know that the dog was taken to Animal Services, and then a responsible person came and took the dog.
Is the dog any part of the investigation at this point right now?
I mean, I don't have the answer for you. I'm not sure.
We learned through some of the press conferences, as well as
No problem,
from
Kate.
some of the victims' parents, that there was a targeted subject there. One of the deceased victims was the target. Can you tell me who was targeted, or were there multiple?
So this is very
targeted
important
during that incident?
So that's actually a real difficult question. And the reason why is because that would be pertinent to the investigation. I think what we have been very consistent in saying is that we believe that this was targeted. We have not come out and said it's targeted to one person or to multiple people. That's all part of that investigation that ultimately will come out. But just right now, it's pretty pertinent to our investigation.
Good copy, good copy. I've been following you guys' timeline, and you update it as you guys get more information. Xana and Ethan, Mr. Chapin, I looked at the timeline. There's a missing block between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. Our team has tried to put together a map and kind of figure out if there's any sources or anything that can provide us information. Have y'all been able to fill that part of the timeline in? Because that would probably be critical to you guys' investigation, right?
Yeah, that would be very important. And so as detectives are out and about,
Hey,
that's
snow
also
remover.
what we're trying to do. And so anybody that has information, we would love to talk with them. We would love video, ring camera,
That,
just anybody with thoughts and concerns.
I mean,
about
that could be key right there.
We want to talk to them. We want to make sure that we have a crystal clear picture of where the victims went, where they were that night.
Is the fraternity house a part of the crime scene?
Listen to this.
As part of the crime scene, no, but they do. The people within the fraternity house would have pertinent information. Potentially, they saw something out of the ordinary. Maybe there were some interactions, those types of things. And so, anybody with that information, we want to talk to.
I don't want to get into the investigation. Obviously, you have to protect that. But the theory of there being what people call a peeping Tom, is that still an option, that someone was in the woods looking at these victims? And if that is true, should the public still be concerned right now? Because that person is still out on the loose.
So that's a two-part question. So the first part of that question is essentially, have we ruled anything out? And I can tell you unequivocally, we have not. As we're gaining this picture of what occurred, I think we're going to be able to hopefully ascertain kind of the facts of the case and potentially come up with some sort of idea. We do not want to get pigeonholed into anything because we would feel that we would miss the other facts. And right now, since we don't have a specific direction in which to go, we don't want to miss the other facts. The second part of that question, I think, is more about the public safety and the public concern, fear in the community. We recognize there's fear in the community. Ultimately, there is a person or persons that is in either our community or someone else's community who's committed 4 murders. And so people need to be alert and aware.
Obviously, you got somebody that's on the loose right now. There's a lot of fear with the public. Based on what you guys have been able to collect, and y'all have profiles there on the team, BAU unit is here, why not go ahead and release that profile?
So we don't currently have a suspect. And so as we build that picture, that information from BAU is going to be critical into trying to develop that. And so if we just provide information to the public, I just don't think that that's going to be a wise choice. It will potentially put more fear, more suspicion on a wide variety of people versus if we use that to really refine where we're at in our investigation. I think that'll be more pertinent.
Based on the profile that BAU has been able to gather, and again, I understand this is crucial to your investigation, do you believe that this suspect has the ability to attack again, or do you think this was an isolated incident, that he was specifically targeting individuals or an individual there at that house?
You know, so I think we have to kind of go back to unfortunately, our standard is that we believe that this was a targeted incident.
So you don't think this, based on the profile, this person or persons will attack again?
I would hate to speculate on anything like that. If you say one way or the other, I think that you'd be doing a disservice to the community. So ultimately, we know that there's somebody who has some people, right? Ultimately, we know that there's a person or persons that is in
Absolutely, Amber,
that has committed 4 murders. And I think it's important for the public to know that while they may not see a lot of activity in and out of the house, they may not hear about a lot of the different interviews that are occurring, we're making substantial progress. We have a lot of people working on this case. And, you know, our ultimate resolution is that we would like to find a suspect, make an arrest, and then go through the judicial process, because that's what would be appropriate.
What did he put on that door? I have no idea what I just did. I'll have to go back and look. They had, it might have just been like a, you know, like a flyer if you've seen anything. Okay, I'm not muted. So, couple things I caught in that thing, in the little brief update, is I think that I hadn't realized until I looked into it. Well, one, I've heard that they adjusted the timeline of Maddie and Kaylee, that it's actually, they're thinking they got home closer to 1:56, which, okay, whatever. But that Xana and Ethan left at 9 o'clock. So they were only, exactly, Amber. So they were only at the party for an hour, at this fraternity party. Now, and no one knows, well, at least police don't seem to know, what Ethan and Xana were doing between 9 o'clock and 1:45, and no one's come forward, which is interesting in itself. They seem, the mention of this fraternity that the party was at, so that is pretty, like, I think they believe that somebody knows something there as far as what was, at least wanting to figure out what was the behavior at this party, all that kind of stuff. Did they have any, I mean, there's a reason they only stayed for an hour. There has to be a reason. I don't know if they got there and, you know, people were there they didn't like, or what it was, but for whatever reason, they only stayed an hour. If anyone's heard an update that they came out with, what this is, how did I get politics on? You know, then I could be wrong, but there's a really large gap. I also think that like, I was one of the people that jumped the gun immediately and thought it had to have been Kaylee that was targeted. And now I'm not so sure the more I think about it, because when I looked, Xana and Maddie worked together at that restaurant. Xana and Maddie were in the same fraternity, sorority, who happens to do a lot with the Sigma Chi that Ethan's part of. And they actually have far more in common. So I said to the girls today, I can't help but wonder if perhaps those two were the targets. I still don't think, after what Criminality said, I still don't think Jack is involved. I think, at least the ex, I think that Criminality said it really well the other night when she said it, like, it was Kaylee calling him over and over again. It did seem that law enforcement is really set on the fact that it was targeted. So I don't know if something was left behind. I would think that they couldn't say it was, like, they wouldn't be so adamant that it was targeted unless they had something left behind that's pretty, like, says it was targeted. The other thing is, I noticed, did you guys notice there's a couch on the porch where the sliding glass doors has that always been there, or was that just pulled out by the police? And if it was, why? So I want to share a few pictures with me that people have been showing. I got to go back into my messages because I keep coming up with things during the day and then I forget what they were. The other thing, so, and this is just me. Okay, so say Ethan, they've used the term targeted from Jump Street. Jump Street. That's true, Amber. That's true. Oh my gosh. Sorry. So the other thing is, there's a huge discrepancy I keep seeing over the coroner and whether or not they were all found in bed. So there are some articles that say that people have posted that say that some were found in bed. So I went back and listened to the coroner's interview, and from the beginning. Okay, that's what I thought most of it. I just want to make sure, with News Nation, and they say, were they found in beds? And she says yes. I took that as the assumption that meant that they were all found in their beds, because she didn't say some of them were. As I re-listened to her interview, hadn't caught before that multiple of them had multiple stab wounds. For some reason, I thought it was just Xana, but it looks, from what she said, they all had stab wounds. So part of my thinking, and y'all can tell me your thoughts on this too. So if Ethan and Xana were out, I would assume they drove home. So if they drove home, I would think Ethan, like, they weren't drinking enough that he wasn't coherent to drive home at least. And so it's still, he was 6'4". It's still so hard to believe that he didn't fight back, that somebody small could overpower him, unless he was sleeping and like one wound was just fatal, or it was just so startling that he didn't have it in him to fight back. That's the only thing I can think of. So somebody released so I saw it on, this is interesting too. The dispatch, like we know the 911 call is this huge, why isn't it released and stuff. So somebody posted this like little blurb. It's just kind of like what was called in. It's not the call or anything. It just says like the time reported was 11:13, and it said officer requested case report taken, and then they say basically what it is. It was called in as a homicide. They give the address. Time reported is 11:56. Interesting. Complaint of an unconscious person. So I was trying to think through how, because obviously they came on the scene knowing that somebody then it was a homicide, is my understanding. But that's interesting. Complaint of an unconscious person. So this is my thought process of that. And I don't know if it's true, that somebody, they came and found them, saw the blood, thought, okay, they're obviously deceased, but didn't want to go check if they were, obviously because of the state. That's the only thing I can think of. But if that's the case, I think there's a lot on that 911 call. A lot. That's just my opinion on it. Okay. Let me share these images. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you just think that there's just a lot on the... So I thought this was interesting too. So this allegedly is out of Maddie's window. Am I correct? Is she the one that had the arrow pointing up? Or is it Kaylee's window? One of the girls, we know that, right? So they have their water bottle or whatever that is, and you can see the champagne bottle. But somebody said it looks like he is trying to, and this is speculation from somebody, he is trying to get a line of where that looks like he's eyeing where it would look out of the window to this, whatever the apartments or whatever is that way. Which, one second. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. But somebody also came, and not to just get way off topic, but somebody came up with, said something that was, can you imagine what it's like to be those investigators and go through these rooms and just, day in and day out looking for something that, a sign of some sort, but also just having to look at these girls' things and knowing what they went through. It's just really awful. Yeah, it's got to contain some pertinent information. All right, so this was extremely interesting because I had no idea. So this was also, I had no idea about this. So I'm assuming this apartment right here would be, I guess, didn't Jack live across the street? Because according to this poster, this right here, where this photo was taken, was in that little porch type thing. So I would assume that it was Jack, I guess, that took that picture, from my understanding. But then, people have said, well, whoever took that pic, which I would assume is Jack, has already been cleared. So let's talk about that for a second. The difference between cleared, so they haven't exactly said that Jack is cleared, though I think he is I think he is innocent. Oh, really, Danielle? That's possible. But I think that they are saying that we don't believe they had any involvement at this time. So basically what they're saying is so far nothing has proven that they were involved, but they haven't come right out and said they're cleared completely of anything. But I think for the most part, we can assume. They also did say, I think as of today, that that I just read, that the Oregon murders, and there was like another crime, they found no connection whatsoever at this point, that the two are linked. And to be quite honest, it doesn't totally fit. There's no reason that I can see, not that there has to be a reason, but that why, in Oregon, this would happen to a couple, and then, over a year later, they, target somebody in this house. I just don't think that that's the case. Okay. So this, hold on, let me go to this. So I had not seen this before, and I don't see a ruler, but I did not realize, I don't know what they're interested in here, but the reason I want to show you this is, have you guys seen this picture? And what is that tag? Can somebody tell me what that tag is? Because, yes, that's what I thought, most of man. I don't want to speculate and say it was a evidence tag, but the interesting part about this is that it's on the first floor. So I'll show you. So I want to show you really quick, and we'll go back to that. Okay, so if we're looking at it to this, so the white car is Maddie's car, and then the Range Rover is next to it. So if you remember, y'all, the white car right in that location was searched. Remember, like a week ago, they searched it on, I think it was like Friday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before that, they searched Maddie's car. And that window, the big window right there, is the one that they are looking and taping and taking pictures. So I just want to know what do you guys think? Hey, hashtag, what do you think that is there? I mean, is that an evidence marker? And I got to be honest, it does look like there's a little blood right there, but that could also be my mind saying, oh, there's blood there because we see what we think we see, But if that's the case, could he, it's very possible that the suspect, I hate to say this, splattered blood or something. I mean, what are your thoughts? Is that an evidence marker? Because I ask that because then, well, here's the other no, wrong way. So, I mean, he lifts the tape for her to take a picture of. So there has to be something that they're seeing there that is enough that they need to get in, and that we can assume that is a evidence marker of some sort. So my question is, will they do that for anything that they suspect is evidence, or things that they just see out of place, or things that they know is potentially linked to the crime? Now, the thing is we do know they went up into the woods. They said that it was to expand their thing, but it seems like they did think that that's the area that the suspect came from, that he came in by foot. There was one other, I thought I took it. Oh, here's what I was saying. Okay, you see Maddie's window right here. You see right above the arrow, there's another one of those red markers. So I hate saying this, but I'm just going to say this. I think they put the tape on all the windows and doors to make sure no one goes in and out. Okay, Danielle, that makes sense. That makes sense because it's here too. And I thought, oh my goodness, is it possible that like blood spattered that much? But that actually would make sense that they put the tape on there or something. I didn't know if it was an evidence marker or what it would be. I don't know. I thought marking a blood spot. So there's also a rumor going around that Ethan was found on the floor. I don't think it's true. I really don't. We know the coroner has kind of been bounced around when she gave the initial interviews, but I think if we really look into, the way she said they were in their beds, not some of them were in the beds, unless, yeah, the Andra, I mean, there's no way that there's just no way. There's no way with the amount of stabbings and the deep stabbings that he did. There's just no way that he wasn't okay, he or she wasn't covered in blood. I still, in my mind, would find it, I'm not ruling it out, but I would find it really hard to picture a female being able to inflict that type of, just pressure, just all that kind of stuff. So, and the one reason I think, we know it was a personal attack. I mean, I think stabbing itself is personal, but it also has to be somebody that is really familiar with, like, I would, hunting, somebody that has, and I'm trying to say that's the most tactful way, but hey, this is true crime, it's true crime. Somebody that is, has perhaps like gutted a deer or something, or an animal of some sort. And the reason being because, and the coroner had said one of the FBI profilers I was listening to said something along these lines, to be able to stab through a human. Like, I don't think we could possibly fully understand what that would be like, because, I mean, you're talking bones, and I don't mean to be too graphic, but we're talking bones just, and the thing is, this person didn't just, like, this person had such rage that they didn't just do it once, but they did it 4 times. And, like, usually if you're in a rage and something's in a split second, you'll just do it really quick, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? This person knowingly went to different rooms. And it's really hard to picture, okay, so who do we have as suspects, or who was the target? Because I too jumped on the Kaylee thing, and I think I might have done that prematurely. And because the Ethan's room and Xana's room were like not in the direction of what they would have needed to go upstairs. So it's like they went out of their way to get, unless they just didn't know and they just went to the bottom floor and they found them. But there's still, again, there'd be no reason to kill them. Yeah, Amber, it's highly possible that there's 2 people involved. The other theory that we've had, and I'm just trying to talk through some of the theories and getting your guys' opinion on this. The other theory that has been floating around was that it was drug and cartel related, because people have said that they went to this house for the drugs. I got to be honest, I don't get that vibe. Typically, I was doing reading before this, and it said typically, statistically, when it's like drug or cartel related, they usually don't leave the suspects there, but they also usually, it's like gun type, like they just do it and get it over with, and that type of stuff. I guess I don't necessarily think that, I don't get that vibe in the situation. To me, and it's probably, this might be because I've watched too many movies or seen too many true crime thing. It's I picture somebody that had a real issue, like they were rejected by them. Somebody said that Maddie and Kaylee were frequent patrons of that corner bar. So was it somebody they embarrassed? Was it somebody they rejected? And look, I am not shaming those girls or Ethan whatsoever. I mean, come on, that's not at all. But I'm just saying, that's the vibe I get. Somebody that was specifically mad at them in some way. I mean, I don't know. And maybe I'm off about the drug thing. I don't know. That's just not something I get. And yeah, right, Amber, it takes a lot of, and so I did read an article where, one of the police had said it was somebody very tired. The suspect would be very tired. I mean, absolutely, they would be very tired. I mean, I don't think we can understand the output that it would take. And Ethan was 6'4". And my speculation is that Xana woke up when Ethan, and that's when she started fighting back. That's my thought. I mean, Ethan was 6'4". This is just like, if I know those, Criminal Minds type shows aren't, but if you like, I don't know, but there's something that is telling them that it was targeted. Do you guys have any theories of what it might be that was either left behind that is telling it, because I really can't think that they're saying it was targeted and they're standing so firm on that just because of its stabbing. Like, do you think the suspect left things behind? I can't imagine a note was left behind, but or if the fact one was, and they seem to think it was, I think it was, they, that from what we've heard, it seems to be like there was a targeted individual, so was it somebody that I said I would be going back and given, so their interest in a sorority, I get those mixed up all the time, mixed up all the time. So the fraternity, Xana, Maddie, and Ethan's fraternity did a lot together. I saw a ton of pictures with those two together, with all those fraternities together. So this is another thing, the weekend before this took place, it was parents' weekend. So I do think that the suspect was around enough to know when, like to know the layout, when things were happening and stuff. But was it somebody upset with somebody that got kicked out of the fraternity or the sorority? It does seem like the person that they do want to talk to the people in the fraternity. Why no one's come forward yet to give more information on that, unless they have and we just don't know? I'm not totally sure. That's kind of weird. To me, it sounded like they hadn't talked to anybody. But there's a reason that they left that party. Oh, that's a really good theory, Molson man. So was it Ethan that had beef with somebody, or Xana? But again, then you're like, why the other two girls? Because we can assume that they went in and hurt Ethan first, and they hurt Ethan and Xana first. Xana, I always say it wrong. I don't know. So I keep going back. Could it have possibly been the four of them? And why leave the roommates? The only thing I can think about the roommates is that they just simply didn't know they were down there. But if they didn't know they were down there, that makes, so if they didn't know the roommates were down there, that to me makes it hard to believe that it was targeted, because if it was targeted, I would feel that anybody that targeted them was probably lurking, had an idea of their schedules and stuff, and was, aware enough to know that they were, two more people lived down there. I have not looked into the roommates enough to know if they were in a sorority or fraternity, because part of me thought, it could entirely be possible. I would be looking at the people that have been kicked out of their sorority or fraternity. I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that it's not somebody that worked with Maddie and Xana, because that would explain the two different floors and why it was all four of them. I don't know. But I also thought it was interesting that the bar owner wouldn't say in an interview or anything of anybody's behavior that night in the bar, and he was really he said out of respect to the victims and stuff. I think all the female but ran into Ethan and got spooked and didn't finish the job. Mike, that's entirely possible as well. Good to see you, Mike. Yeah, I do think it has to be people from both floors that were targeted, and probably all the females. So would that couch that we saw, and maybe Mike can answer this, the couch that we saw outside, I assume it was probably taken out by law enforcement. Would that mean that there's why would they take that out of the house? Because I would assume that's in the living room. So was there blood in the living room? I mean, it's probably, because I would assume he walked. I mean, it's just wild. It's so risky for a suspect to commit the horrible, horrific act that they did with people home. And so say Xana wakes up and Ethan's being attacked. It's just so hard to believe that she didn't scream. But again, you're talking floors. I get it. You're talking, you know, like doors between people, floors between people, all that kind of stuff. Was it out? Okay, thanks, Daniel. That's what I was trying to figure out. So the couch was already outside. The dog, I'm not even kidding you. When the guy asked Aaron Snell, yeah, Mike, so that is something I'm going to have to look up. Danielle, can you email me if you see that? I want to know if that couch was removed or not, or if it was out there. I feel like you might be right and it was out there the whole time, but I'm very interested. I do remember, okay, first, I gotta tell you this. When the interviewer asked Aaron Snell if the dog was part of the investigation, and his face was like, because there is legitimately people right now, Punkette told me, that are trying to find the dog because the dog was a witness. So, look, I know there's some, there's often connections between animals and humans, but I don't really know that now's the time to do some Dr. Dolittle type stuff with the dog. I think I'd probably let the dog go. Why the dog was left alive? I mean, why not, I guess. Like I don't know. The dog isn't that big of a deal in my opinion. I do think people are looking too far into the Venmo thing and thinking too much about the Venmo and where Ethan was getting paid from people. Like I think people, young kids these days, they live on Venmo. So I remember I believe it was one of the press conferences or interviews. It sounded like law enforcement said they did have bloody footprints. Oh, I heard you got these bots were flowing around here tonight. Thanks for joining me. I know, right? Deandra, I'm like, you could tell the officer was trying to keep his. Yeah, it just. So, what are some of your opinions, y'all? What are your thoughts? Oh no, Beetle, you're good. Do you think does it concern y'all that they have said that there's no suspect? Or do you think that they're just saying that, but they might have persons of interest? Now, I know there was that Jeremy people were suspecting and stuff, but I feel like it's more outside of the box than that. I don't know. I don't know. I got to make sure I've shared things that I wanted to share before I keep talking speculation theories. I know, I believe it was not Kaylee's dad. One of their dads was very frustrated because he says he hasn't heard from, police since whatever Wednesday or something. It's just really hard. I think they're just trying to keep, because let's be real, in fairness, Kaylee's dad, I think, or sister or something, has talked a lot on social media. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't talk a lot on social media, but it's going to make law enforcement be more hesitant, I think, to tell them things in fear that they're going to say something. I mean, I would think, isn't that like pretty standard? But like everybody, so, there's like yesterday, Fox News, New York Times, like everybody saying, was Kaylee the target? We don't have any evidence that Kaylee was the target. specifically, other than the fact that she called Jack. But I'm telling you, criminality had such a good point. It wasn't Jack calling her. It was her calling Jack like 10 times. He was ignoring her calls. And it's still really hard for me when you look at Jack to picture him strong enough. So in that interview, he says, based on the evidence internally at the scene, that has led detectives to believe and continue to believe that this was a targeted event. Okay, so based on the evidence internally at the scene. So that would mean inside the house. So really, Mike? Yeah, so that's what somebody reminded me of. They said, you have to remember that was the party house, right? Like it was a good house for partying. There's so much DNA that they have to process to eliminate people that it's just going to take a long time. But I think that if it was somebody we've seen, that's what I know. Either did I, Molson Man, and I hate saying that. Me neither, Danielle. But it's true, you guys. He's probably 130 pounds soaking wet, maybe probably a little bit more than that. And we're talking the amount of force it would take for all those people. I just don't see it. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot more DNA than there is at, a typical home. But based on what they said with evidence internally at the scene, there has to be something. There has to be something that they have found that makes them believe that. Something that they found that makes them believe that, but not enough to make a suspect or a person of interest, which is very interesting. That's the other thing, Mike. But Mike, what are your thoughts on the fact that they have said, at this time, would that just necessarily, are they just saying we can't find the evidence to link these people? Or do you think that they're just rushing too quickly and dismissing things? So I will say that they felt that they, at the beginning of this, law enforcement did kind of not act quick enough. And the one guy in the first press conference did say, I should have been here yesterday doing this, because multiple people have said close to the situation that they originally thought it was a murder / yeah, right, Mike. Yeah. So I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Why do you think they would be searching Maddie's car? Because they never went and searched Kaylee's car, but they did search Maddie's car, and that's right in front of that window that they were taking photos of and measuring. They did have the ruler out. Somebody found a picture, and they said, you can see the ruler right here. So they had the ruler out measuring something. Oh, thanks, Toy. Yeah, it was church day, so I had to do myself up. And actually, before work, like I don't want to have to do my hair in the morning, so I'll just dry shampoo. I'm just questioning whether or not there was something in that area that they found that they would measure. What would they measure? Blood? Like, what would they be measuring with a ruler that they were so adamant about that one window and taking all those photos? And then they search Maddie's car, which is right in front of it. Oh, okay, Mike. Yeah, they said they've had like 260 digital tips or something insane that they're trying to work through. But what would they be measuring, Mike? Would they be measuring? Let me go back to that picture here. Because they're measuring something right here in front of her car. So I don't see the ruler, but there's another picture that somebody says you can see the ruler, evidence tape, and a ruler at the front window. They say you can see the ruler here. I do not see a ruler, but that doesn't mean anything. But this right here, and again, I thought I might have seen blood on the outside, but look. Or did the suspect try to get in there? Like, did he try to enter this way at some point? Like, is there a door? I've got to go back and look at the thing. Is there a door between the basement and the upstairs, the second floor? Like, would that have been locked? Because if that was locked, you know, for all we know, the suspect went down and tried to get in there. That's the other thing I'm thinking of, Danielle. That's actually a good point. But it seems to be just this window. And somebody said they were taking photos in the bathroom and stuff, which, I mean, they're probably taking pictures of everything at this point because they're just trying to search for any type of, you know, lead. So remind me who the big guy is again. We know that the big guy from the food truck that allegedly has been cleared at this time, or just like that's possible too, Toy. I mean, and it's not like it's the whole door, right? It's just where that tag is. So my guess is whatever is there that they're interested in is what they put the tag next to it. And it's the same one that we see. They also have it tagged right here in Maddie's window. You can see by the arrow thing, they've got tape up there as well, which is interesting. It's wild. So it's wild. There was a screen pulled off a window to one of the rooms. Really, Mike? Tan hat guy, yeah. Did they have the equipment to do 360 scans? Did they have the equipment to do 360 scans? I don't know, Red Rock. I guess. So, okay, so let's think. Let's assume they're going to go through the evidence and stuff. I mean, I'm nervous they're not going to find the suspect, but my son is singing. So Mike, do you think the suspect pulled the screen off the window? They did 360 scans? Okay, thanks, Mike. I got to be honest, I don't know what a 360 scan is. And I know that they've cleared the Uber driver, or at least dismissed him. I still don't know how. I'm going to assume Ethan and Xana drove home. But that, I'm telling you, you know, Punkette said it too. There's that 3-hour span. Law enforcement, no one knows where they are. My guess is, so that's the other thing I said was, okay, so did they find their phones? Because I would assume their phones would be able to track where they went. Okay, Mike. So I would assume their phones were still there. So I would guess that when that comes back, they might be able to figure out where they were. But I just think something happened that made them leave after an hour at that party. I really do. And that where they went, you know, they could have gone. I mean, they could have gone to a different bar. There's a lot of things, because that's a long time. 9 to 1:45 when they get back to the residence is a pretty long span of, you know, they could have gone to a bar, they could have gone to another party. But I mean, that's key. We also don't know what Maddie and Sandy, I think you're right, because the dog didn't bark from what we know, you know, allegedly. I do think the 911 call has info. And I think the killer had to have been a hunter. I really do. Oh, you're right. You're right, Red Red Rock. That's how she was able to hack into a few things. Well, Beatlemaniac. Well, that's the other thing is, one of the dads, I can't remember who, was saying that you know, they've been hacking certain things, and like I can understand, but I don't know, that can get really hairy when they start trying to hack into certain things. I don't know. But somebody did say that they don't think that they have any suspects. Another reason they don't think is because the FBI is still there and everything. And the FBI, like, they're pretty much, yeah. But at the same time, you know, Kaylee is determined, so she could definitely figure this out. But I do think that police will be more closed-mouthed with them talking so much and saying certain things. The multiple stab wounds is just really mind-boggling to me, that no one heard anything. But again, I guess it's entirely possible if they were downstairs, and I don't know. I'm not so set either that I read today that the neighbor did hear the dog barking, was about to go over there. Oh, really, Pamela? Oh, that's true. Good point. Who knows if it was even their dog? So those are the little things that I don't understand. Like, I guess maybe law enforcement doesn't even know for sure. Yeah, that's possible, Danielle. Yeah, I think probably it might have been a voyeur. I think it might have been somebody that, you know, could have come into the restaurant. Like Xana and Kaylee, I mean, or Maddie, all of them, they were 21 years old. So they've been around that area for 4 years. So it was not like people knew who they were, and they were definitely familiar with the house. I think I had heard that as well at one point, Pamela. I don't know. I guess I'm not that surprised that the dog was left like alive, because why, you know, to take that extra time. But I do think it was somebody that was definitely willing to take a risk, because that is, but at that same time, that makes me believe that maybe it was, you know, that it was more likely to be somebody that around their age, that people wouldn't think like, why is that person there or something, you know, like people would not say, hey, we saw this random guy. I mean, it was a Saturday night into a Sunday. So there was many people probably coming home in the apartments and stuff around those times. That's the thing, Toy, is like, well, I guess maybe we didn't just see them, but we haven't seen images of them hosing things down or blood outside or anything like that. And with that concrete, I would have just thought, so that just hit me. So with that concrete, I would think there'd be blood footprints out there, unless they took off their shoes. Really, Danielle? See, that's kind of what I feel like. Maybe that's really sad that she was a mean girl. That's very sad. But I didn't necessarily get the feeling it was because of like somebody that was OnlyFans. You know, I think it was somebody that knew them pretty well from either the restaurant, or they did say they were frequent patrons of the corner bar. I mean, it could have been anybody, but I do think now my only fear is it is a college town. And so it could very well be somebody that was supposed to graduate with Kaylee. They could be gone and out of there right now. You know, like people are in and out of there all the time. And most likely they probably hightailed it out of there after this, you know, it's really hard because then you can't say, well, who's missing? Who, you know, it's just a really hard. Sandy, yeah, I hope Ellie has more info than they're saying, like a lot more info, because it is very concerning, you know. And the thing with the 911 call, they're just, I'm not sure what evidence could be on it that's so pertinent, but it's something. There's something that's said or something on that 911 call that makes it so relevant. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Okay, because that's right. There's an empty room on the second floor. So he very well could have been waiting for them to get home. Oh no, for sure, Molson man, especially with, so if well, that Molson man, that's a good point, because Xana has defensive wounds. So I would assume, I mean, I would find it really hard to believe if she thought she didn't have any of his DNA under her fingernails or something. I mean, me too, Pamela, me too. When I look at these students and stuff, I think there's no way like any of these sweet kids could, or these kids could have done it. But then somebody said, well, any student could have done it if they were drugged up enough. And I just think it was somebody with a rage that. Very possible, hashtag. Very possible. And they are saying that they don't have a suspect. They haven't said they don't have a person of interest yet. And I do know that Friday they were back out of the house again, you know, taking more photos and stuff. So with the way that they've been going to certain windows and trying to look out of the windows and stuff and see like the angles of where the girls' windows were and stuff, it does make me wonder if they think it was some sort of a, like Mike was saying, a voyeur, or somebody had been almost stalking them for a while. Yeah, that's true, Mike. Yeah, I think you're right. So, and so with all the DNA though that we were talking about, the amount of people were in and out of that house. Here's my question. Mike probably knows this. So when they go ahead and they like look at DNA, does DNA automatically, can you identify it to somebody, or is it only identified if it's somebody that like, I don't know how DNA works. Does it have to be somebody in the system already, or like, I mean, how do they figure out who's DNA? Like, I know they test it, right? But how does it come back and say, oh, it's so and so? But a neighbor who has been on the news and interviewed a few times, that are a lot of people. Yeah, I think that's that Jeremy. Oh, wow. No, not Jeremy. I can't remember what the name was, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah, the Andra. They probably have to be very careful about who they have to have a sample. That's what I thought, Mike, which is going to be extremely tricky. So they'll run it through CODIS probably, like they did with Eliza Fletcher's, but it's, oh my gosh. So essentially, in order to have the DNA matter, they have to have somebody in mind or a person of interest to get DNA from. That's crazy. Wow. That's why I think that, like, I know people are frustrated too, but it's going to be a long process. Is it, Jeremy? Okay. Well, I will say, Pamela, what I did see somebody, okay, first of all, I went on this site today that I don't even know existed really until like last week. And it is actually quite horrifying. It's called like 4chan or something. Most of it is like horrible that I read. Like, just like, I can't even believe there's people like you out here. But every now and again, you'll get I've noticed a good speck of news or something. So people did kind of look into this Jeremy, and True, Gina. True, Gina. Yep, Mike and Gina just like. True, Sandy. Like his dad is friends with a guy, like there's a picture of his dad and some other guy that just got out of prison like 2 years ago for a stabbing. But when I looked into the guy that got out of prison 2 years ago for a stabbing, it was like a fight. It was like voluntary manslaughter or something like that, because there was a fight at a bar and I guess he stabbed the guy or something, which obviously is horribly, horribly awful. But at the same time, like that is a stabbing for sure. But then there's this type of stabbing. This isn't just a stabbing. This is like, yeah, like a slaughter type thing. So, but yeah, I don't know much about Jeremy. And then is there a Joe? Because Kate was telling me about a Joe that was interviewed or something, and I haven't found the interview yet. That was kind of sketchy too. I hope somebody from the fraternity comes forward and that has an idea of where, I mean, how can no one be coming forward to say where they went? Somebody knows where they went. Somebody knows why they left that party. Somebody knows their behavior at that party. It's insane to me that no one is talking about that stuff, at least. And I know tonight's not like any huge, massive info here on this channel, but I get intrigued like running this by you guys. So, and just hearing some of your thoughts and what do you think about certain things. Oh, Joe is the tan hat guy. Okay. Thank you, small town girl. I can't keep all like, okay. Apparently in Idaho, you have to be a Jack or some sort of a Joe or J letter name. I will say the only reason I would think they may have a POI or suspect is because they haven't offered. Oh, Mike. Molson, man, that's a really good call. So when I was listening to one of the interviews, yeah, so somebody said the candlelight vigil, they said that law enforcement will definitely be keeping an eye on that. Okay, Joe is the big guy from the food truck. Thank you. Because it is not uncommon, like they said, to go through videos or images of like law enforcement, because it is not uncommon that one of the lurker, like this suspect, if they're still around, will lurk in some way or show up at some of these things. And we know Richard Allen did for Delphi. So I will be interested. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. FBI will certainly be watching. Hashtag, that's true. Because that's the other thing. So I'm looking at people like, okay, I'm looking at people along the lines of somebody that would be experienced doing this type of thing, you know, but we know that it was probably not somebody that's serial. If law enforcement has something that they're so adamant that it is a targeted. So I need to switch my mindset a little bit and look at it of somebody who might not have done this before, who might be like antsy or a little bit scared now, or might start to act differently or something. Yeah, Mike, that's what, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, how many suspects that end up being arrested and stuff that have watched and gone to groups and stuff and like taken things from, it's crazy. I just can't figure out if this is going to be somebody that is like going to be acting nervous now, or if it's somebody that really just has, I don't know. It's just, it does, Beatlemaniac. And it does, it gives me chills to think of these investigators, what they have to. I did read that there are police officers that have already had to start going to counseling because of what, and my hat's off to them, of what they walked in on, because I don't think we could possibly understand. And I've said that a lot, and I think it's because, well, I think Mike probably has a little better idea being in law enforcement. or retired law enforcement, but the scene was probably beyond what we, to walk in on, especially young kids like that. And I mean, anybody, but especially for kids, and in such a, brutal way. And now every day, you have to go back into this house through these girls' things that are all still there, these kids' things, True, Mike. That's true. And Richard Allen was so nervous that he went and kind of inserted himself in the investigation, which I do believe was probably a little bit of a power thing for him, but also I think he was kind of nervous. Oh yeah, Beatlemaniac for sure. It's just like every day. I was looking at the one picture here of right here, this picture, and you can see he's looking out, right? But you see the champagne and everything, but the pictures, there's picture frames right here. And I thought, this poor man, like that's what they're having to see every single day is the pictures, the things. And I know, right, it's their job. I get it. But I just don't think anything can fully prepare you, especially the initial first responding officers showing up to the scene. I mean, I can't even imagine. I don't think that they had any idea. Well, and according to law enforcement, they came thinking there was an unconscious person. I can't imagine. Yeah, for sure, Beatlemaniac. I don't think we can fully understand what it's like to walk into a scene like that. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where they are right now in this investigation. And absolutely, Mel. They're still human. They're still human. And there's some things. One of them said, I thought somebody said that, commented that there's just some things you can't unsee. And I think that's exactly this. I don't think this is something they can ever unsee. At least I couldn't. It is. So, Mike, do you think this person, so maybe, this person probably didn't bolt town, and he'll probably be at the vigil. And this is, I mean, that's crazy. That's just crazy to me that you could do something so horrific and then go to like a vigil and just like, it's every day. It's just nuts. With such a gruesome crime, this would take it. Oh my gosh. Exactly, Toy. That's one thing they said was this individual, anybody you might have seen that would have been obviously bloody, but the only thing I can think of too is if he or she changed his. I've been to some pretty gnarly crime scenes, but I have never seen so much blood where it seeps. Oh yeah, exactly, Mike. Exactly. Somebody said we can't, in order for it to seep into the foundation like that. So Sandy, that is a very good question. So that was my other question is, who are they renting from? They don't own the home. So who's the landlord? Is that, you mean like the owner, or yeah, like a manager, like who oversees this rental? And I guess who I that is kind of weird that hasn't been mentioned, like who. Well, all it has to do is get by Kate with the, oh yes, I forgot her husband, by 1 2x4 if it pools and leaks. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and my husband was saying, like, if it hits an artery or something and any part of their body was hanging over the bed, it just would have. But yeah, like, who is the person that owns this home and who is there, like, I don't know. So I thought so too, Gina, except that Kate explained it to me. Her husband explained it one night on here, of how that happens, that it made sense. I mean, it's still kind of shoddy, but yeah, he explained it in a way because he does whatever, construction or whatever. So yeah, so it's not heating oil because of the fact that there was a drip on the pipe, and then you see it like it would go, it drips over the pipe, and then it goes at the bottom, it comes back like it dripped, and then, it's away from, and then comes back. It's owned by it's owned by a real estate agent out of state. Okay. I wonder if they checked phone pings of those two. It's a good question. I know the oil heated, I don't know where everybody got that from. I don't know if it's because they found a pipe or what, but that was a really big thing, and everybody said it was confirmed rust and stuff, but it's clearly not when you look at when you do a close-up. Yeah, that's true, Molsa, man. That is actually a really good question, Sandy, because yeah, I would think that they'd have some sort of property management, because it is interesting that with all the parties and stuff, that whoever manages or oversees the house wasn't aware. Spill a cup of water on the floor, it will leak through to the basement, no problem. Well, if you think about it, like my kids have overflowed the toilet before, and like the big thing is, oh my gosh, Marcia, all I could think about is a friend of mine's brother-in-law was drunk and went through a sliding glass, or went through a window, and when they woke up the next day, he was deceased. And they said that he had hit an artery or something somewhere, and he said that, and I remember talking to her later on, and she said her sister said the amount of blood just from that one artery you have, like, was just insane. Oh, that's so awful, Marcia. Yes, and the way it dripped out and then came back and dripped at the bottom of the surface, yeah. There was another thing that law enforcement, I don't know. But yeah, to the best of our knowledge, they were all found in bed. But again, that's what the coroner said. But then the New York Times or something was reporting something different. Oh, good to know, Mike. That's very interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But what I don't understand is, with that much blood, why did survivors think? So, Marcia, I think that, whatever the paper I found that somebody had a while back posted of the dispatch, what I think happened, here's my theory, is that, so somebody said, you don't understand the amount of shock that they might have been going through. The only thing I can think of is that they went up, saw all the blood, weren't going to definitely go check if the person was deceased, ran away or whatever, and then called law enforcement. So hashtag, that's the only thing I can think of, Marcia. Hashtag, so I asked about that too when I was trying to talk it through with my husband. He said if any part of their body was hanging over the bed, or because of how much blood, it most likely would have seeped off the bed, and somebody's arm or or somebody could have fallen on the floor. But I mean, that's a good question. I've asked that too. I mean, for that much blood, I would think the mattresses would absorb most of it. And so maybe one of them wasn't in bed and they happened to end up on the floor or something. And so maybe when the coroner said that they were all in bed, maybe she was referring to when they were initially killed. That's what I'm wondering, Sandy. Yeah, that's actually, now that I'm just thinking of that. They were all, I think you might be right. I think, yeah, hashtag, it's a good question. I think you might be right. I think what they were saying is they all were when starting, because We got a picture. As horrible as it sounds, Xana and Ethan sleeping next to each other. Ethan, we can probably figure, was maybe first, and Xana fights back. I can't imagine that Ethan remained in bed if there was a scuffle of some sort and he was deceased. You know, like I just don't see it. Can't imagine. Maybe that's all the dispatcher could get of. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, Mel, is, and you know, I don't necessarily, so people said, did they call the friends over before police? Because all I've heard is that when the police got there, there were other friends there. But then some people were saying, like, the shock, like they were saying, like one girl said, when I found my mother, the first thing I did was call like my best friend to come over before I even call, you know, like it was just the shock. Oh my gosh, I know, Red Rock. I also read that his stabbing was on the back and they were on the stomach down. They'd bleed inside. But even if police says it was good. Yeah. And so also too, when the police have said it was sloppy, I'm not sure that it necessarily means, well, I do think the killer left a lot of evidence, but I do think that sloppy is also referring to how brutal it was. Yes, they summoned friends over and then all called the police. Okay. Kate. Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, yeah, because they won't say whether it was the roommates that called. That's right. And I mean, that could entirely be that they were just in, like, what do I do? I don't even know what's happening, you know? Yeah, I think, yeah, Molson, man, that, oh. And isn't that like a sign that isn't that like a really personal sign? Like when somebody, as horrible as that is, you know, stabbed so hard that the blade is, because, oh man, I just keep thinking, like, I don't know. It's not like you're stabbing a a watermelon or something. Like you're stabbing with things with bones and stuff. As horrific as that is, like, yeah, Molson, man, had to be somebody high. Oh, for sure, Beatlemaniac, and to move on to different rooms. Have they said? I don't think they have, but I've been kind of out of it. Have they said which floor was that it happened on first? Yeah, Mel, that's what I think too. I think they were in utter, like, freak out mode. I wonder if they they may have only opened the door a crack to see one of them, and that was enough, and then they took off. You know, it's easy for me to say, well, why would they do this? But I've never been in that situation. Idaho, well, yeah, and then Michael Vaughn too. Yep, exactly, Mike. They have not said, okay, I didn't think they had said what floor yet, or if they know. Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, that's what I wondered, Sandy. So at first people, you know, including myself, were under the assumption when the coroner first came out that it was like just the chest and things like that. But then I re-listened and realized she said the upper chest area, like, and yeah, I realized that they didn't necessarily say that their throats weren't, from what I heard. Did you all know, not to completely change? Well, this is kind of completely just for a second, that they finished up their search at Michael Vaughn's, and I guess I don't know if they found anything or not. But I thought, if that woman, like, if they were lying, and like, oh my gosh, I thought for sure they'd find something. So it was Ethan's funeral. So have they not released the girls' bodies, which would be very telling? If they haven't released, if they haven't released the girl's body, I think that's pretty telling. Yeah, Molson, I just saw that actually, that it was his. Yeah, Pamela, I think people were speculating that because they assumed it was Kaylee's been the big thing, what everyone has speculated that was the targeted individual. So I'm really curious if they've released the other bodies yet. It's crazy. Oh, are they Red Rock? Okay, good. Because I read in an article that they were finished, and I was like, okay, awesome, Beatlemaniac. Okay, guys, thank you. That helps me. I know, Marcia, because I really had thought that perhaps the Oregon one was, and I did, so the only things that I've connected them to was that there wasn't enough connections that I didn't think, yeah, I don't think Ethan was a target either, Kate, because he did have the funeral. We've heard nothing of even like a scheduled funeral or, yeah, Mike, it just didn't, there's too many differences that didn't, there's, nothing that really ties them together. So do I, Kate. I do think, I don't necessarily know that Kaylee was a target. I think it might have been Xana and Maddie, or all three of the girls. True, Mel. Have you guys seen any YouTube videos on profilers that have done this case? Because I'd actually be really interested to watch that some night. Because people also were saying that we're making a big deal out of something he said about they don't want to say the profile because people will speculate. People are like, well, then he's automatically saying it's a male. Well, I mean, I think either way, we can, at least that's what I think. I don't think a female has the endurance, I mean, maybe they do, to carry this out. But that's not, it's one probably targeted more than the other, but I think it's related to their, that's very possible. Yes, Molson Man. So the Oregon attack, bless his heart, the husband, they said he saved the wife. She was stabbed 19 times and survived, but they basically said he saved her life, but they were killed in bed as well. And they did have a house guest at the time. However, the house guest, the other person, was just there to watch their cat because they were supposed to go to Hawaii the next day. And the house guest is what ended up scaring the intruder away. He didn't go into detail. Okay, Red Rock. Oh, really, Mel? I'll have to watch that. Okay, Gina, I will. Yeah, Sandy, somebody in that house made somebody really mad. And for me, it just screams like a rejection and revenge of some sort. And, oh, well, duh. Ethan wasn't even supposed to, Ethan doesn't live there. So, yeah, that would make sense that he wasn't the target necessarily either. But, all right, y'all, well, I'm going to hop off of here for tonight. Hopefully this week we have more info. But I liked just being able to chat with you guys tonight and, go through some of the things, what we all think and some of your theories. I like this community too. You guys are all very balanced and stuff. And hopefully the poor kid that was completely doxxed tonight on Twitter for the fact that he has a Pinterest page about knives is doing okay right now, because I'm sure he's being blown up. Oh, really, Mike? I'm going to have to look at that too. That's right, Mel. I forgot about that. You're right. All right, y'all. I'll probably see you tomorrow. Yes, have a great Monday. I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye.